All right, welcome back into the Auburn Live Football Show. Appreciate everybody for joining us. As always, it's Cole Pinkston, Allen Head. I am Justin Hokanson. Boy, is it 2024? Is it 2023? I thought we were in 2024, and I feel like I'm in September of 2023 recording this show. I feel like we're about to talk about – I feel like we could go back and pull some shows last year and just replay those.
I thought we were in October of 2018 watching Jerry and Guantanamo throw bombs down the field on us again, man, with that terrible Tennessee game.
That was maybe one of Gus's worst losses. All right, let's get into all this real quick. Shout out to the sponsor of the show, Session Cocktail, downtown Auburn, right there on Magnolia Avenue. Go check them out. Great place to get drinks before and after the game, happy hour, before and after dinner. They're a great place. Awesome friends of the show. Make a great old fashioned. I generally get a Gold Rush. If you want to go and get what I get, it's a Gold Rush. It's a great drink. But go check them out. I think we're going to start doing some live shows from there on Fridays, by the way. And when Cole's in town, he can pop in, but it'll be just kind of a I'll be there. And then when, like, if Cole's in town for recruiting or something, but it'll be like a Friday kind of 4 to 5 happy hour type show. We'll just go live on YouTube. Zach's, it's probably the first time Zach's hearing this. But you know, when people want to be a sponsor of the show, we got to do it. You know what I'm saying, Zach? So we'll it'd be quick and easy, but we'll go live from Session on Friday afternoons, probably 4 to 5, and just talk about the game a little bit, and have a little ambiance in the background, and, you know, nothing crazy. Answer questions if people pop on and want to toss a few questions in there, that kind of thing, and just you know, just kind of last minute thoughts. So be on the lookout for that. Appreciate Session being a partner of the show. Okay, 21-14 Cal. That did not go as planned. I think defensively it was about what we thought. I think 14-20 we thought. Yep. It's just all, you know, we can talk about the defense because the first half was a joke. I thought, you know, that was pretty bad. They got it together and played well in the second half defensively. Pretty much everything was in reverse. I mean, you know, second half was a different story on defense, and they played well. We can talk about that a little bit, but might as well just start with what everybody's talking about, and that is an offensive performance that was pitiful. It's just pitiful, and you can't have every factor. I wrote it in the 3-2-1. You can't have every variable better on offense from year to year. Like, pick a variable, and it's better this year. And yet you go out and you basically put up the exact same performance you did last year against Cal, which is barely getting your second touchdown late in the game, and just, you know, 200-something yards of offense. It was really, really bad. So, I mean, Cole, I'll let you start, and y'all can go, and then I can, you know, pile in behind you. But, you know, just maybe top of the head thoughts, and then we can dive into some stuff as we go. But just, like, you know, are you panicking? Is it like a 10? Are you like, I cannot believe what I just saw? Or is there a little overreaction? Where are you at?
No, I don't panic after week 2. It's not in my nature. Being around football all my life, that's not how that works. And, you know, not that this is not about recruiting, but a lot of the recruits see it that way too. They understand football. They play football, and they know how it is. That's what most of them said. Look, this is football. That's what happens. They got all the opportunity in the world to get this turned around. So, first of all, I want to give Cal some credit. I mean, yeah, they've had good game plans against Auburn 2 years in a row now. I thought, you know, talked about this back in the summer. I thought Cal's did a good job in the portal and grabbed some guys that were necessary for them and fit them. And obviously they're not a bad football team by any means. I don't know how good they're going to be this year, but they got a good coach. I think I have a lot of confidence in saying that. So I give them credit. They played a good game. Their quarterback was on fire. So good for him. Defensively, like you said, made adjustments in the second half and really turned it around there. I was impressed with that. If you're looking for positives, to me, that was the adjustments made. They made Cal completely one-dimensional, and they took the things away that they were doing well. and said, all right, now beat us like this because we're not going to let you do that anymore. That's encouraging. Now on offense, let's see, I'm midway through the third quarter in play scripting, and every time I do that, it's almost in my head not as bad as I thought when I was watching it. Because when you're watching it, it's like it's just getting worse and worse and worse, and you sort of forget, like, Auburn started that game hot. Had some good things going early. Peyton Thorne made a couple of nice plays. And then, the levee breaks like it has before in the past. And it looks exactly, you're right. It looks like everything we talked about in 2023. That, to me, is the biggest issue with all this for me. That's where I don't panic, but I go, all right, that's bothersome. That's really bothersome when you have the exact same problems you had a year ago. That's scary. Why? And the talent is better. I have no problem saying that. I don't think anybody would argue that your offensive talent has gotten worse than it did a year ago. It's gotten better now. It's young. You got a lot of young guys. You got a lot of new faces, which is why I wrote in June or whenever that was that I thought this Cal game didn't set up very well for Auburn because they're new. I knew Auburn was going to try to force the passing game because of the recruiting. I've watched Hugh Freeze recruit enough that I know he's gonna pander to that a little bit. It's in his nature. So yeah, he forced the passing game a little bit too much, in my opinion. I thought they didn't attempt to run the ball enough early on. And when they did start attempting to run the ball, it was too late. Too little, too late. So that's just the beginning. There's so much we can say. I don't want to roll forever here, but that's where I'll stop for now.
On my front, Justin, I don't want to be hyperbolic. I'm not a Skip Bayless type guy. So the screaming and ranting and raving and all that stuff that, a lot of people get into when they do kind of these reaction shows, that's not going to take place here. And I'm with Cole. I'm not panicking yet because Auburn has 2 data points, 2 games so far. 2 games does not make a season. I think Auburn will be judged as we get a little bit closer to the end of the season in its totality of how this team performs from beginning to end, and do they get better over the course of the season. That said, as far as what we witnessed yesterday, I thought defensively, soft coverage. They chewed us up a little bit. It seemed like we had a too high shell for a good part of the first half and wanted to make sure that we didn't give up any explosives. In the second half, they made a major change. We're able to bring a little bit more pressure. And so I really liked – I wish we'd have started off a little bit more aggressive defensively. But when you hold somebody to 14 points, and realistically, I think if the offense doesn't put the defense in a bad position multiple times in the second half, they probably don't give up the 7 points in the second half, if we're being honest. So overall, while not the greatest performance from our cornerbacks, because – in man coverage specifically, I feel like the awareness just isn't where it's supposed to be from our outside corners. They don't play the ball exceptionally well. Now, I thought we did better in the second half, but there needs to be some tightening up there. For whatever reason, we're not able to locate the ball like we need to. But on the offensive side of the ball, Cole, you nailed it. I felt like we forced the passing game. There needed to be more designed run. There was a lot of RPO concept in the first half specifically. Second half, you got into a little bit more drop back game, which was not tailor-made for our offensive line, particularly when they brought the blitz. I didn't think Peyton handled pressure very well at all. And he's such a rhythm quarterback. And when he gets off his spot and he gets out of rhythm and he starts to face a little bit of adversity, for whatever reason, he's not able to see the middle of the field. And so you miss some open receivers there, or he tends to ignore it because he goes into what's comfortable for him. And he kind of became a shell of what he can be or what he is when he's in rhythm. And so I don't know. You just didn't see the nuance from the offense. I didn't think the play calling made sense logically. I didn't feel like we were overly prepared on that side of the ball from start to finish. And it just kind of got away from us. Now, again, this was an example of Auburn playing very poorly. And so if you're talking about last year, there were moments where Auburn played well above its talent ceiling. Against Alabama, against Georgia, They played up to their level of competition. So I don't think this one game is indicative of the outcome of what you can expect for the rest of the year. But if you're looking for tea leaves, or if you're reading tea leaves here, it's certainly not good to have some of the same issues that plagued you this time last year, because this was eerily familiar of the Maryland Bowl game. This looked like Cal last year. You want to see year-over-year progress, and you didn't necessarily see that today. Now, does that mean that you can't see it moving forward? No. But it just, it definitely takes the wind out of your sails, and now it's about what is this team going to do moving forward? Can they get better next week against New Mexico and then show some competent play against Arkansas and get what I would consider a very big victory at this point? I think your next 2 weeks are very crucial for the outcome of this season. I really do.
Yeah, I mean, the Arkansas game is going to be I think a dogfight anyway, and you see now they've got a little bit of ability. I mean, they blew that game, and they have an athletic quarterback. So, I mean, that's certainly a game where you have to come in and play well. I mean, now you got – I mean, Auburn's lost 4 straight FBS games. I mean, going back to last year, they lost to New Mexico State, Alabama, and Maryland, and then now they lost to Cal. So I mean, they've got wins over, Arkansas and Vandy and Mississippi State. Congratulations. I'm not like, I don't know. I don't love the word panic. I'm not panicking. I'm not the coach. I'm not Peyton Thorne. I don't have anything to panic about. But am I sounding the alarms? Yeah. Like I can't watch this continue and then continue to come back here and go, well, it's early. We'll see. Like it was all the same stuff we saw last year. If it wasn't a bad throw, it was a mix up on the route. If it wasn't that, it was missing a blitzer and letting a guy run free. If it wasn't that, it was a ball going through a guy's hands and it turns into a turnover. If it wasn't that, it was looking out here and going, why are 3-4 guys running deep and there's no check down? Why is there no screen pass? Why is everybody just running deep and Cal's entire defense is just like, their linebackers are just sitting around going, I don't need anybody to cover. You just ran everybody deep. I'm just kind of hanging out in the middle of the field. Like if it wasn't one thing, it was just another. And I feel like that's been the story for the last 2 years, or for the last season and now into this year. And it's hard to watch what happened Saturday and be like, well, they'll get it fixed next week. I mean, there was so much that went wrong. There's so many issues. So I get, and of course, it took like 5 seconds for everybody to jump on the, bench Peyton Thorne bandwagon.
Yeah,
look, I'm not gonna.
It was less
if
than
that's
that.
where you're at. Huh?
It was less than 5 seconds. Less than 5 seconds.
Yeah. Listen, and nobody. I'm not. I really like Peyton Thorne as a human being. I think Peyton Thorne is capable of being a quarterback, but I'm not going to sit here and defend. Nobody's defending him. That's not why I'm here. I'm not going to defend Peyton Thorne. But I'm just saying there's so much that goes on and there's so much that went wrong that I hate that we just jump to the most obvious thing we can see. There's definitely things he needs to do better and messed up on. There's definitely guys that let blitzers run free. There's definitely conceptual and route running things that didn't make sense. Like all of that's going on. So it's almost like, where do you go? What's the easiest fix? I mean, if you tossed Hank Brown in there, does that outcome change yesterday? I mean, from everything you saw offensively, does Hank Brown fix it? Because I mean, that's where you got to start. It reminds me of the Gus Malzahn thing when it's, you want to fire somebody or just take your own life. If you want to quit your job, you better have another job. So if you want to bench Peyton, cool. Does Hank Brown fix yesterday? If you think he did, or if you think he does, then okay. If you're like, no, if Hank Brown's in there, this goes different, this goes different, this goes different, Auburn wins. If you think you can make that argument, then okay, I'm not against that. I just don't know. I mean, there's so many issues. I don't know if you just plug Hank Brown in, that all of a sudden Tyler Johnson doesn't just let somebody run free, or Cam Coleman doesn't drop a ball that turns into a pick, or like there's just a bunch of stuff there.
Well, and I think the easy answer to that is, Justin, is you don't have enough data on Hank Brown to know, does he elevate other people's play enough? You have essentially 3 series of real game film on Hank Brown to know what he is or he isn't.
In garbage time. You don't, yeah.
Right. So you just don't have enough data to make that kind of a determination. And so there has to be a little bit of faith put into the coaching staff that they're playing the best player. That said, I don't think there's harm with getting Hank. You're playing an inferior opponent in New Mexico. They're going to be well coached. Bronco Mendenhall is their head coach. He is a really good football coach. But there's no harm, in my opinion, of splitting snaps and getting Hank, live reps against first team defense to kind of make a determination on, does he really help you? But
I'm okay with that.
Do you outright bench Peyton? No, I think you open it up. I think you start the person that plays the best in practice this week. And if that's Peyton, that's who you roll with. And that's your team captain. That's who you built this offensive system around. That's a lot of change. That's a lot after 2 weeks to go, nope, I'm out. I'm done. And I know where the fan base is. I know I'm going to get criticized. The comments are going to basically tell me I've lost my freaking mind. Like, hey, I understand.
I was going to ask y'all, I was going to say what my granddad says to me. This applies for this podcast.
Right.
How tough a boy are you, son?
Yeah.
You better have thick skin, because you're fixing to get somebody's going to be on you. It don't matter what opinion you have. They're going to be on you after this.
Sure.
Yeah, but you know what we're not going to do? We're not going to hop on here 5 minutes after the game and yell and scream for engagement about bench everybody. That's what we're not going to do.
No, I'm with you.
It annoys the shit out of me.
No, that's why I said we're not going to do the Skip Bayless thing. We're not going to do the Stephen A thing where you just get on here and you get on here and you rant, and you rave, and you raise your voice and you get clicks and create content and all that good stuff. But I do think that it's worthwhile experimenting to get Hank some looks against a first team defense to see what you have. But again, I don't think you outright bench Peyton. I've said that in other places. And to other people, that I think it would be a little too quick to go that route, but I'm okay with getting a look against Hank against legitimate first team reps to see what you have and does sometimes. And this is what I will say for quarterback play, that the quarterback can elevate other positions contingent on how players respond to them. But is Hank that guy? I don't know. I don't see him in practice. And sometimes guys are just gamers, right? When they come in and they step foot into the stadium and the lights are bright, they know how to play and how to respond. They just do. Yeah. And there's no real answer as to why they play better than the guy who just kills it in practice. But Cole, I'll turn it over to you, man.
And that happens a lot more than you think, actually. I mean, it really does. I think, I want to go back to the point, Justin. There was a poster on the board. I don't know who to give credit to. I can't remember who it was, and it's lost in the shuffle now because the corner's been pretty active here lately. They said, hey, what if you put what's his name, quarterback for Cal,
Fernando Mendoza.
What if you would put him in Peyton Thorne's place yesterday? Would he have been the same? It's a great question. I don't know if I have a legitimate answer to it or a full answer to it, but I think the answer is it's possible, but not highly likely, because I'm more on the side of this game plan has a lot of holes, a lot of issues there.
Yeah.
And how do I know that, right? Hear me out. Because you were able to put together a game plan with Peyton Thorne at quarterback. Don't forget that. To go toe-to-toe with Georgia, Alabama a year ago. You were able to find a game plan that worked there.
Yeah.
So there's things you can do. I mean, it's not just doomsday. There's things you can do to make it work. There's things you can do to take a game like Cal and blow it wide open and score 40 points on them. There's a balance in there somewhere, I think. And back to the passing game, I think there was too much try to be put in that. I thought some of the routes were good. A lot of the routes got open.
Yeah,
they just couldn't get there, and that's been the story of Auburn football for a while. If it's not that, they can't get open, and it's the other way around. But right now, I don't see that problem. I see a lot of open guys, and you can't get it to them for whatever reason. I thought Keandre Lambert-Smith's body language a few times was very telling. And this is a guy that's a veteran. He's played a lot of football, played in a good offensive system at Penn State where he was reliable, a good receiver for Penn State. And he was frustrated. He knows, that was Bush. That was Bush League, what we just did yesterday. So I go back and watch his body language. He was frustrated. I thought that was interesting. And again, it's a game plan thing. I think Peyton Thorne, I'm with you, Alan. I think that Hank Brown, now I'm against the 2-quarterback system.
Sure.
I don't want that.
No.
I'll go ahead and put that out there. I don't want to rotate those guys. If you're going to go with Hank Brown, give him a game. Give him New Mexico, and see what he does. I don't know if that's the right call. I'm just saying, if you were going to, that's what I would rather you do.
That's what I was thinking, which, it's like, if you toss him out there, what do you learn in a series or two? Like, what do you really learn? I mean, it's like, I don't know. I mean, maybe you get him a little of action. Maybe you can, if there's a couple of things that you can see from a drive or two that you think you can determine and leave Peyton as the starter for New Mexico and try to get to Arkansas. It feels like we're at a tipping point. I mean, it does. Like, yeah, if I had to, my number one criticism of Peyton would, and really go back to last year at times, is the anticipation. It's just the hesitation.
Yeah.
And it was hard sometimes because last year was a mess. And so I've often said that, like, it's just hard to get into what last year and be hypercritical about anybody, even Peyton last year, because there was just a lot of crap going on. And I didn't want to be too harsh, I didn't think, on him, because I didn't think it was a great scenario. But he showed against Cal, it's just sometimes got to get rid of the ball. Sometimes you got to get rid of the ball. And but at the same time, there's some times where he made some plays with his feet when things break down. And you're like, can Hank Brown do that? I don't know. Maybe that's not the primary thing. Maybe number one, we got to get a guy that gets rid of the football. And Hank has been known to do that a little bit. Like when he's gotten in the game, Hank throws it. Good or bad. He does get rid of the ball. I don't know where Hank is in terms of his understanding of the offense, and can he run the whole thing? And I don't know all that. I mean, I do think that Peyton's got a grasp of what's going on. Like, I don't think that's in debate. He's played enough football. Peyton has got a grasp of, I think, what should happen. It's just not always happening. And that would be my number one thing. There was some times where you got to get rid of the football and trust your guys a little bit. I thought he did some, and I thought some other times he didn't. But that's a tough call right now. And I'm not the one getting paid whatever Hugh Freeze is getting paid to make the call. And Hugh Freeze has got to take that fire. He had a chance to get a portal quarterback. He didn't. So here we are. I mean, that's on him. And I'm not dogging anybody. I'm not dogging Peyton. I'm not dogging anybody. But it's got to be fixed now. Like right now. It has to be. When I say tipping point, it has to be fixed right now. If it's not, you will lose to Oklahoma. You will lose to Georgia. You will lose to Missouri. You will lose at Kentucky. Like, you're going to lose these games if it's not fixed. So either figure out what's going on with the offense, Peyton is anticipation, maybe some lazy route running at times. They come out of the break and go, like, keep going. We saw a couple. There was Aaron Murray had a great breakdown for people that watched. There was, I can't remember who it was, but there's a couple routes where guys didn't come out of the break. Like they throttled down a step, and that means everything. Like there are little things and nuances that do matter, and they're not making an excuse for Peyton Thorne when we point those out. We go, man, if you throttle down one step, that freaking matters. And then you're reaching for a ball instead of it being right there. Rivaldo Fairweather, not every ball is going to be perfect, man. Rivaldo Fairweather, catch the football. Not every football is perfect. Sometimes it might be a little behind you, like Rivaldo in the first half, but it hits you in the hands. Catch the football.
Right.
I mean, so there's just a lot of blame to go around. So I don't know if you want to put it on Peyton and say we need a guy to get in there and sling it and put Hank in there. That's cool, but you still got to have guys catch the ball. You still got to have offensive linemen not missing blitzes. You still got to have guys coming out of the breaks and running right routes and not having mix-ups. There's still all this other stuff's got to be fixed. So that's just kind of where I'm at. Like, you want to put Hank in, cool, but is all that other stuff going to get fixed in 2 weeks? That's why I'm like sounding the alarm a little bit. I just see a bunch of stuff. I don't see just everything's working great. If only a quarterback could throw the football. I see a bunch of issues.
No, that's not it. That's not completely it. I think, you made the point. You got a lot of all these tough decisions. Well, you know why they're tough right now? It's because the margin of error is still very, very small for this football team, because you don't get as long on a rebuild anymore. Fan bases and boosters and the people that are in charge don't want to wait anymore. They want it now. So you're caught in a place right now where you're in year 2 of a rebuild. You don't have the full roster in. You won't yet. You've had to patch some holes out of the portal. You've had to do all that. But nobody wants to hear that. And Auburn fans are so jaded to bad football right now that they don't want to wait around and wait for a rebuild. That's just the truth, whether we all agree with it or not. All right. The problem that I have with the game plan is that they try to pretend that margin of error is not there. And it is.
A little cavalier.
You still have to play safe in some areas. And they're trying not to do that. And you know what? I really do commend them for that. You got to push it sometimes. You got to take risks. But you also got to be smart. And I thought the key word from Freeze, or the key phrase from Freeze, he said, I hoped we were further along.
Ugh.
You got to know. You got to know. You got to know. Are you or are you not? You can't hope and then go try it and it doesn't work. You don't have time for that. Nobody's affording that to you.
No, this isn't Arkansas State and Jonesboro, man. Like when you do these things at Auburn, it's magnified, right?
That didn't give you the warm and fuzzies, huh? Hope we were further along.
No.
No. After watching the game plan too, that's exactly how they attacked it. Well, I hope we can do this. No.
Don't you know the SID was just like handed, looking to the side when that statement got made.
I mean, listen, it's better than, it's better than being in, I hate to call him out, but Billy Napier's situation and talking about a guy in his basement. Look, he comes out and he says, look, I got to fix it. Okay, good. We know that. Yep. That's all you really can say.
No, you're right. You're right on that front. And I agree with both of you that there are more issues with this offensive operation than just Peyton Thorne, right?
Yeah.
Definitely more issues. And I think most of it is the game plan and making sure that you accentuate the parts of your game plan that make sense for winning that particular game, right? This wasn't an Alabama A&M where you could just go out there and showcase the passing game because you were so much more supremely gifted than that team, which, by the way, I think Alabama A&M could lose to Thompson. There you go. I have gone hyperbolic at this point. But
which is why we didn't take anything from last week and why it annoyed me that I'm not taking these shots, but watching Auburn football Twitter put out graphics to talk about being the second highest graded team in college football.
Right.
Like,
no, listen.
Why? Can we stop? You played a high school team.
Can I give you credit? I was sitting beside you when you said that. You're like, hey, I don't know about that yet. You played Alabama A&M. Like, chill out.
Yeah. I mean, you played a team that is not who you should be measuring yourself against, right? We all talked about Cal was going to be the litmus test. This was going to tell us, hey, this is where you are, and this is probably what you're capable of. Coming out of this game, we'll have a lot more information. And I think we do have more information, just not the information that we necessarily wanted, right? I think.
Hey, I mean, people are looking for positives. I know they are. They want answers. They got none.
What you got?
I come out knowing that the front seven for Auburn is kind of tough. I mean,
on D, yeah.
That's a good thing. I saw some really when they
shit. I don't know what I know at this point.
I feel good. I feel good about saying that. I really do. I mean, they made plays all day long. The dam broke at the end. I mean, of course it did. They were on the field all day.
Right.
I mean, they only have so many guys. They rotate. It was going to happen eventually. Your offense has to pick up the slack at some point, and they didn't. It got worse as the game went on. But the front seven for Auburn, that includes the linebackers, are playing well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good.
That was a shining moment. And that was one of my biggest question marks, that interior D line. And I thought Travis Rakes, like there was some good stuff there. It gave me a little bit of hope.
Yeah, and Keldrick is what you thought he was going to be when you recruited him.
Man, he balled out. Yeah.
How about Malik Blockton? There's another great sign for moving forward. I mean, that guy played well.
Yeah, and let me say this: that was not roughing the passer on Malik. I felt bad for him on that call.
Unbelievable call.
Now,
garbage call. It's like they didn't even see it. It's like they just looked and maybe saw the quarterback falling and threw the flag. You couldn't have watched it actually happen because it literally didn't happen.
No, I'm with you. Now, they made up for that by, let's be honest here, that was not pass interference in the end zone either.
Oh, the mix-up?
Yeah.
Yeah, watch the replay. I'm probably with you on that. It probably looked like it because the ball was thrown in the wrong spot. And it maybe looked like you held him and I went and picked. Yeah.
Right. But, and again, I'm not going to get off on just bashing refs, man, because that is a tough job to make those kind of calls in real time.
They're pretty bad.
I have a policy. I personally have a policy against talking about penalties after they have already happened. It's done.
Right.
Whether we agree with it or not, that was the call, and that's what it was, and that's how it affected the game. Now, I have a soft spot in my heart for guys that are playing as hard as they can and then get a call like that roughing.
Yeah, man.
That's nothing. Officiating was bad, but none of that was why Auburn lost. Like the targeting was the guy lowered his head. What are we doing? That was targeting. I don't know what's happening, but none of it was why Auburn lost. It's just a bad officiated game.
No, agreed, and poorly officiated on both sides, right? Like enough so that it made it equal. Now, I want to go back to Peyton Thorne. One last thing before we move forward, because I think we obviously need to get off this. But I think the thing that's most discouraging about Peyton, because again, it is the whole offensive operation that's the issue. It's not just him by himself. But at this point, it is the lack of awareness that he plays with at times that is probably the most frustrating, right?
Yeah.
You think about the throw to Cam down the sideline. What was it, a 4th down? And he decides to go deep, 40 yards down the sideline.
Yeah, it was 4th and 2.
The 4th and 2 you talking about?
Yeah, 4th and 2, yeah. And
I didn't love that call.
Well, and I'll be honest with you, when I rewatched the replay, I don't think Cam I think he was the second read, right? I think the first read was KLS coming wide open.
Yeah, and then Robert Lewis right behind him on a slant.
But that speaks to the point of Peyton being a little bit rattled. And when he gets rattled, he doesn't see the middle of the field very well. And so he threw to his comfort spot, which was to the outside. The other one that you can point to that's very tangible for everybody, Cam obviously gets injured. I don't understand how you don't know that he's injured maybe you're caught up in the play. But how is in today's game, right, where you have the headset, somebody's not on there saying, hey, Cam's hurt. Do not throw the ball to him. He's a decoy in this. Take him out of your reads. And you throw it there anyway.
Yep. And I think they knew because if you listen to Hugh Freeze after the game, he didn't say, here's what Hugh Freeze said. He said, Cam was hurt, but the clock was moving and we needed to keep going. The way he described that was Cam was banged up, but we needed to move and we didn't have time to get you out and get somebody in. And okay, if you're in, well, then where do we mix up the play call? The way he described it was things are moving. We had to go. Well, which means they maybe knew his shoulder was banged and they were just rolling. The issue was not communicating that and saying, hey, you can't go to Cam right now. You can't go. Because he was a wounded duck. He couldn't fight off the DB. He couldn't even fight for the ball.
No. Well, in my understanding of the situation is when I looked at it again, I think they liked the matchup of personnel they had on the field. They didn't want to sub. They wanted to go tempo.
Yeah.
And so they wanted to keep that same matchup. But like you said, either that wasn't communicated to Peyton or Peyton just decided to disregard what he was told and decided to throw it to Cam.
No, Peyton said after the game, he did not know. He goes, I didn't know he was injured. He goes, I guess I threw it to him. And that was his, he didn't know. He just took the back shoulder one-on-one.
Oh, man. That's tough for me to swallow on that one, that somebody didn't communicate that to him, man. Like I don't understand how that happens.
Well, I tell y'all, as I've sat here and tried to just figure it out and gone and researched and done everything I can. I remember. Oh no, I haven't. No, yeah, I have. I've done a lot on that. I still don't really have like a full answer. I mean, I can give you an experience I've had that came to mind. So when I was helping coach an offense, I coached running backs. Like I said, still getting my feet wet in coaching. I was not like a big coach on the staff or anything, but I remember we had a quarterback who struggled with reading, just reads and short throws and RPOs, and we ran RPOs. This quarterback, by the way, now plays safety for the Cincinnati Bengals. Yeah, he does not play quarterback in the league. He made it as a safety, and he was really, really good at Nebraska. You may now know who it is. Anyway, he didn't do well with the reads. It really wasn't a quarterback. We just had an athlete at quarterback, right? So the play calling to start the year and everything we'd gone through beforehand was, hey, you got this read out here. Think. We had a play called Think. This was our sign for it. Think. You have a play where you read this guy. When we realized in the first couple games that he couldn't do it, we changed the way that was called. All right, you don't think about it anymore. I'm going to tell you what to do before the play. We think, you run it. Right? And I almost wonder if a little bit of that's going on because it's college, okay? You're a quarterback. You're supposed to be able to do all the reads and everything you need to do.
Sure.
But some people just don't do it well. And I don't know if that's true for Peyton Thorne or not. It's a question I have, though. It's something I'm questioning. Is it that they've told him, look, when you make your pre-snap read, that's got to be it. Don't try to do anything extra. It's not good for us. So when it comes to a play like you were talking about, the 4th and 2, the slot fade that didn't make a lot of sense because the safety was playing about 8 yards off, that's not a good read. But is it the read they told him? I don't know. That's what I question. I think at the end of the day, though, even though all that may be true, and a lot of people don't want to hear all that, I got it. It's not working with Peyton Thorne in at quarterback.
Yeah,
that's the bottom line, and it's at least on everybody's mind. Why can't you try something else? Right?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's game 2. It's almost a little too early for that. Everybody's still upset about the way it looked. That has a lot to do with it. Sometimes it looks a lot worse than it is. But, you're in year 2 now, so you've seen a lot. And he had to share time with Robbie Ashford a year ago. That's not fair. I don't think the 2 quarterback system's fair for anybody. I don't believe that. That's against my policy. So I don't think that was fair for him or Robbie Ashford for that matter. Now he's got it by himself. He's still struggling. It begs the question, why not try something else?
Well, and to your point, at what point do you decide that Peyton Thorne is just Peyton Thorne, right? I said the same thing about DJU last week when I was basically criticizing Florida State. At what point do you just acknowledge they are who they are? And either A, you design a game plan around them that accentuates what they do, or 2, you move on to a quarterback that can fit more into your system as far as what you're trying to accomplish. But the 2 things, they're mutually exclusive from one another, because I think we have enough information on Peyton at this point that what you tried to do yesterday is not a game plan that suits what he is able to do and be successful here at Auburn, period.
Right. And it's by the way, real quick, it's what Philip Montgomery was doing earlier in the year last year that he was criticized for so bad. His plays were scheming open. You can go to the Texas A&M game and see several plays that were open and could have worked, but it didn't fit what they had, and he didn't seem to understand why they couldn't execute it. You got a little bit of that going on right now.
Yeah, you're going to have to decide who your personnel is, and you're going to have to build a game plan around that. Period. Because you can't. What you can't do is, I do think that 7-5 is kind of that. If you're worried about mortgaging the future at all, if you're worried about losing equity, I think that's kind of a gold standard line for you that you can't necessarily go beneath. I mean, look, you could get to 6-6, and if it's the right 6-6, maybe, but that's a tough sell, man. I mean, even for somebody who's an optimist over here in my seat, like, that's a tough sell to me. I think 7-5 has always been the line that you had to get to. 8-5 with a bowl win, and I've been on record as saying that for a while now.
Yeah, you have over 500. It's got to be
right. It's got to be right. You have to show some progress, otherwise, you set yourself up for negative recruiting. You set yourself up for other issues with your fan base, with your donor base, with everybody else. There needs to be that momentum going forward, showing that we're accomplishing and getting better year over year. There has to be some tangible proof of that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, yeah. 7-5 is the bare minimum. I put 8-4 on them. And for me, that's what this team needed to be.
Right. And I don't think you're wrong for having that opinion, Justin.
Yeah.
I think go ahead.
No, I mean, no, you're right.
I was just saying, I think in my mind, I always thought the best talent on this roster was the young talent.
Yeah.
And that these kids were going to make some mistakes. And so
yeah,
I probably, when I said 7-5, I was building in some margin for error to have a game like this. I just didn't think it would be against Cal. And I think a lot of people didn't think it would be against Cal. And that's probably where a lot of people are upset today. When you think about being concerned, you talk about ringing the alarm bells. If this game comes against Oklahoma, do we have the same reaction? Probably not, because I think a lot of us thought that that was possible against an Oklahoma.
Yeah.
No.
But for this to come against Cal, it's who the opponent is, and this happening is what's more alarming than this actually happening, right?
Oh, yeah. You're a double-digit favorite. You got a team
I had to put that disclaimer out there earlier this year because I feared for this day. Right.
Well, everybody that's on the, Hugh Freeze gives you one of these a year bandwagon. It hit early this year. We got a long way to go.
I mean, listen, Cal might be really good. We're gonna find out what Cal's made of moving forward.
Come on now. I mean, they're in the ACC. Like, I mean, whatever. Maybe Cal has a good season. They're not bad. They're clearly not bad.
I think they're probably a 6-6, 7-5 type football team in the ACC.
They were picked 9th, 12th, 14th in the league. Like, they could surprise people, but it doesn't excuse.
No. They're not world beaters
that we saw on Saturday.
Don't get me wrong.
I think y'all make a point. The point y'all make about Peyton is that's a tough one to argue. Like, bottom line, it's not working. I mean, like, just in general.
Yeah.
And I'm not even trying to argue it. I'm just kind of like trying to be fair. I feel like that's a fair statement. And yeah, but I'm just saying, like, if you're gonna make a change, you got to do it. You got one more week, and then you're into the SEC. You're into SEC play. So if you don't do it now, nothing's gonna change next week. If you don't do it now, you're gonna win. Peyton will look fine next week. Nothing changes.
Right.
So then what? Then really it's just like, well, I'm gonna go a little bit longer. I'm gonna see if Peyton, like, I'm gonna see if this looks like this again against Arkansas. And then if it does, then here's the problem. You do that,
mm-hmm.
Then you mess around in that game and you could lose that one for 2. Okay.
Yeah.
Not only could you lose that, let's just say you mess around and it doesn't look great. Let's say somehow you win it. But you're like, okay, but man, the offense did not look better. Like, now it's serious. You got Oklahoma. So we're going to do trot out Hank against Oklahoma and an All-American safety and an All-American linebacker. And you're going to trot out Hank against Oklahoma and say, all right, do it against Oklahoma. And then next week you're going to go to Georgia. And, like, I mean, that's what I'm saying. If you're going to make the change, like, Hugh's got some really hard decisions. You got to roll it now to me. Otherwise, you're risking it trickles in. You lose Oklahoma. Then you make the change mid-season, and now you're like praying you go to a bowl. I mean, now it's just I don't know. Like, you don't. I just feel like it's kind of a tipping point right now to make that call or not. And I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff going into that if you're Hugh, right? We don't know. It might say a lot if he doesn't about what Hank's sort of overall grasp of the concepts are. If Hank's not out there, that could say Hank's not there yet. Does it say anything about Hugh? Is he potentially being stubborn because he's stuck with Peyton and he put his neck out and he said, I'm a believer and all this stuff. Does he feel like I will get crucified if I change right now? Or do you got to swallow your pride? And we know the right answer if he thinks that.
Sure. Oh man, that's that. Justin, the more I contemplate that is such a hard answer, right? As to what you do there, because it is interesting. Probably the next time you can really make a change is coming out of the bye week, I would think.
Yeah.
Unless it's a situation where say Peyton's just performing so poorly that you pull him mid-game, and then maybe, obviously it's the similar situation that you did with Jeremy Johnson and Sean White, and you made that move. I think Sean got some late snaps against LSU, and then they decided to start him the next week against Mississippi State. So maybe, and lost that game, right? Shouldn't have, but lost that game against Mississippi State, had it won. And you struggled to 6-6 that year, made it to the Birmingham Bowl with a one-legged Sean White. So
I don't know how you approach it. I don't know if you're Hugh. We talk about all these issues on offense. Do you just put them on a board and go, okay, here's the 4 biggest problems. What's the easiest to fit? What's the easiest and most impactful? Because it's not just the easiest. The easiest could be, well, we can fix that, but that's not going to change much. What is the easiest and the most impactful fix we can make in the shortest period of time? Is that Hank Brown? Is it something completely different? I think you
have to make a determination about what you do best on offense. I think you have to, and I'm going to let Cole get in here, but you have to decide what your identity is going to be right now. Because if you're best suited to run the football and to be a run play action team, then you better do that against New Mexico State and start to prepare an offensive game plan that provides nuance and can set you up for success against other teams you're going to compete against. Because I will be honest, Arkansas can come in here and beat us. Oklahoma State is not a top 20 team, in my opinion, but they went into Stillwater and they played very competitively. Bobby Petrino is a good offensive mind. I think Travis Williams will be fired up for that game. You get Oklahoma beyond that, who hasn't looked great. They struggled with Houston last night. They also didn't look fantastic to me against Temple. So that's a winnable game. Kentucky got absolutely rolled by South Carolina, who I think everybody thought was going to struggle. And then Lenora Sellers has a fantastic game for them. So much so that Robbie Ashford even got some playing time.
Did he?
Yep. Had to sneak that one in.
I tried not to smile when he said it. That's what I'm laughing at.
I know.
Robbie played.
Yeah, I was waiting to sneak that one in.
Some people out there happy about that, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure there are.
Some people out there probably had a good day yesterday.
But my whole point of that is there are winnable games on this schedule left? And this is
and I wrote that today. I was like, here's my really weak prediction, guys.
Yeah.
Like, as bad as Auburn looked, Oklahoma didn't look great. Kentucky got spanked. And A&M, whatever. I'm like, they could still beat Oklahoma. Like, they could still beat Kentucky. They could still come home, and who knows what they look like in November. Like, they could still get to 8. They could. I'm not saying everything's great. I'm not trying to be gloss over what happened, but like,
no,
it's attainable, I guess. Still,
it is 100% attainable. There's no reason why Auburn can't. There's no reason why Auburn can't get to 7-5, in my opinion. Like, it is on the table. There are teams that are comparable to you in this conference that have not played fantastic football. I will tell you one that has looked better than I ever thought, and that's Vanderbilt. Now, give it the competition that they've been playing against, but that game is a little bit more difficult than I think anybody would have ever imagined at this point.
Remember how Auburn fans under Tuberville used to like just dread Arkansas? So Auburn fans looking forward to the Vanderbilt game this year. That is what Auburn fans in like 2006 felt about playing like Arkansas. It was like, oh dear Lord, I don't even want any part. When is that game? Is it 11 a.m.? Oh boy. Yeah. Like that game, Auburn's got all kinds of problems, and you're still looking ahead to Vanderbilt like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to play it.
No, I'd rather play anybody else in the conference. I'm going to be completely honest with you on that one than watching Jerry Kill with his pack of Marlboro Lights over there on the sideline. But go ahead, Cole.
I wanted to touch on this. One of y'all made a point a minute ago. It was kind of a minute ago, but I'm still stuck on it here. So
yeah.
It has to do with the margin of error, and I'm kind of losing my train of thought a little bit. But I'm looking at Drive 7 that I've already done. All right, that was Auburn's. think we talked about this, Justin. They had gone since like 5:42 in the first quarter without a first down up until this point, and this was at 11:54 in the third.
Yeah.
All right, they got it going a little bit on this drive, and I want to tell you a little bit about those plays that they ran to actually do that. I think that's important. Inside zone, and they ran this zone play where they don't read anybody. They just block the read man and say, just hand it off. All right. Handled that well. Guess who didn't have to make a bunch of reads on that play?
Peyton Thorne.
Yeah. Keep going through here. A couple things. They get back in 12 personnel. By the way, every time that they got in 12 personnel, I've got positive plays for Auburn on here. First down runs, 6-yard runs, a pass play that went for 14 out of 12 personnel. That's it, guys. That's what they got. That's what we said a while back. I know you got all these new weapons. You're just chomping at the bit to try them out. But this team's still built for 12 personnel running the football. They just are. You can't change that just because you got a couple of new players that can play. That's still what the team was built for. Okay? And okay, I know what I was going to say. When I wrote in Final Thoughts that I've never seen such undisciplined football, I wasn't talking just about Auburn. I was talking about the whole college football landscape. There's dominance doesn't really exist that much anymore.
Too much transition.
There's too much. And another big problem is not tackling. They don't tackle anymore at practice. They have almost taken that out. You can't just really tackle your guys, one, because you're worried they're going to get injured. They get hurt every time they get hit. And two, they don't do that anymore. They have rules for it now where you can't tackle on certain days and you can't wear full pads on only one day a week. But I wanted to make the point. I think Auburn does this well. I think Auburn tackles well. I think Auburn does things in the trenches well on offense and defense. There's something there. Now, you might lose some recruits over it. You might lose one of these freeze 4 to the portal or something because they're not getting used. You better win. That's all I can tell you. Okay? And you need to find something that works at this point. And I see that as working. You can go to the play script right now, and those were the positive plays for Auburn.
Yeah.
It's there. It's written. It's written for you. Go check it out.
I think the phrase that my dad would use most often is never sacrifice substance over style, right? And
That's
so
right.
you have to make sure that what you do, your base concepts, mesh your personnel. And that is, Justin, to answer your question about the decision on Hank, who does Auburn want to be on offense? Because if it's going to be an offense where they're going to want to feature wide receiver play, I think you have to probably give him his due, right? You give him a shot, you give him an opportunity to see what he does. Can he elevate the play of those around him? If you're going to build a game plan about probably what fits your personnel best and you're just going to feature Peyton Thorne, it needs to be a run play action offense that you're right, that mixes personnel, Cole, but you feature a lot of things because of the versatility of Rivaldo Fairweather. You can get creative in 12 personnel. You can do some 11. You're going to have to give mixed looks. You can't get too stagnant, but I think that you have to build around the core of what works for you as an offense. And only Hugh Freeze, Derek Nix, Ken Austin, and those people on the offensive staff can make that determination. That's not something you, I, or anyone else can determine for them. But I would not force a square peg into a round hole.
Yeah, because exactly. At this point, it is what am I willing to sacrifice the most? All right. You're going to give up something one way or another with every choice you make. It's just the position you're in as the Auburn head football coach in year 2 of a rebuild that wasn't clean. All right. You don't compare this to what DeBoer just took over at Alabama. That's different. Their coach was not fired. Okay. Their coach went out on a very good note with a very good roster. Okay. Totally different. I've seen that comparison thrown around, so I wanted to put that out there. This is not the same thing. You had a coach fired. You had a roster that was below 50 that had to be rebuilt from the ground up immediately. You're still in the middle of that. Now, recruiting's been fantastic. But are you willing to take a little hit on that in order to win some football games? Because if you start going 12 personnel and running the ball, some of these guys that want to see the ball thrown a lot may not be entirely happy. So you have to make a decision at some point. What's more important to you, getting the best recruits or winning? And I think your best chance at winning is 12 personnel and running the football, whether it's good for your recruiting or not.
Well, and then when they did that in the third quarter, then when they tried to throw, they allowed 3 sacks and 2 drives.
Yeah.
So it was like they literally just could not enjoy any success. They started to run the ball. Okay, we're running the ball, we're moving the ball a little bit. Now let's call a pass play. And then all of a sudden you couldn't even block. It got so bad that it was like you can't even properly block for it. And you had 3 sacks in the first 2 drives that killed both of them.
So the drive you're referring to is the one that I was talking about, Justin. So here's what you got. 1st and 10 inside zone. 2nd and 4, it's an ISO play. 1st and 10, it's a draw. That's a run play. 2nd and 7, you got GH counter without many reads that I could tell. He hands it off. Okay. Then you go inside zone on 3rd. That's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 run plays in a row. All right. Now you got 1st and 10. You're starting to feel pretty good about yourself on this drive. We're finally getting it going. Slot fade.
That's the overthrow to Robert Lewis. I remember that one.
Let's see.
Gotta be. Coming at us.
No. This is the sack where Luke Dill kind of whiffs on the guy. And comes straight at Peyton Thorne.
Yeah, he didn't chip him at all.
Not a great day for the tight ends, by the way. Deal missed blocks. Frazier missed blocks. Rivaldo dropped a ball. Not a great day for the tight ends.
Right, but you see the trend there. So yeah, run, and then we'll feel better about it. We're gonna try to open it up a little bit, and the dam breaks. And you don't blame them because they had a good play call because that safety was creeping down every time Auburn was running the ball. They know they had to get somebody else in the box or they're about to get run on 100 times. So they thought, well, he's creeping down. Let's try that slot fade because that's where the ball should be thrown. And it was going to be there. But you can't get it off. And that's where you're stuck right now. And you're just trying to find a way past that. But I think the answer might be if you're trying to, like you said, force a square peg into a round hole, your best bet is to do it in the run game right now, not the pass game.
I wish Peyton would just let it fly a little bit. And it's one of the things I talked about before the season there's some issues last year. I wondered going into the year, is there any reluctance with him given what happened last year? Does he feel like his leash is long enough to be just super aggressive? And I think it probably is. I don't think that's why. I think he's just got a little bit of, for whatever reason, a little bit of apprehension sometimes letting go of the ball. I don't think it's because he thinks that Freeze is always breathing down his neck. And boy, if I make one mistake, I don't think that's it. He just has got, and there's times where he does it right. That's what's so frustrating. There are times where Peyton does it and you were like, perfect. You're like, that ball, that RPO he threw to Keandre on the slant in maybe first half, but it was boom, hits Keandre. Like, great ball, great catch, great read. Like, there's times, the fade that he hit Cam the first drive, he dropped that in a bucket. And there's times where he does it and you're like, money. And then there's times where it's like phenomenal decision. Why are you holding the ball? Like, how do both of those things happen in the same game? It's just, there's times where he gets rid of the ball to Robert Lewis, and Robert Lewis went up and made that catch on about a 10 or 12 yard comeback. Robert Lewis needs to be involved a little more. He looks, I think he looks pretty good. And then there's times where he doesn't. There's times where it's like a comeback and he doesn't get rid of the ball. And that's where I just can't answer that. I don't know if that can be fixed. I don't know what's causing Peyton to be a little apprehensive. I don't know if you're just like, well, give Hank a shot to sling it around and we'll take all the negatives that come with it. You got recruiting you got to think about. You can't toss Hank in there and go 5-7, man. Like,
no.
NIL, you can toss all the money you want. You will lose some momentum there recruiting to do that. And so, yeah, a lot of tough decisions, I think, like in the next 2 weeks. I would probably give Hank some reps in practice. I'd probably give Hank some first team reps at practice. I'd probably give Hank some reps in the New Mexico game. A couple drives. Give him 4 or 5 drives. And then lengthen this process and then go treat it like all this week, the game, and then even into the next week, and then make your call before Arkansas. Like that's kind of how I would approach it. If you want to stick with Peyton, fine. But I would make the next 2 weeks, open and let Peyton, rise, or see if you see enough from Hank, or that's probably the minimum. You got to do yourself that favor.
No,
as a coaching staff, so you can come out and go, man, I gave him a shot, and then you could come out and go, listen, I gave Hank first reps and I got him out there. He just, Peyton still gives us the best chance to win, and maybe you can still say that. I don't know.
Well, and I'll give you 2 examples of what you're talking about here, Justin. If you're looking for probably an exact comp of a very similar situation coming off of a 2-year rebuild, look at Mario down at Miami, where they had a struggling quarterback in Tyler Van Dyke for 2 straight years, and basically the book was out on him. And they had to make the tough decision early on in that season to kind of part ways with him. And I think Emory Williams, who was a freshman that Auburn looked at for a little bit out of the panhandle of Florida, was the person that they turned to. And he got them going there for a little bit, and they ended up getting to 7-5 after a 5-7 season the year before. And so that's probably stylistically of what you're looking at. That's probably how you're going to have to go about it if you're going to make that kind of a change. But as far as creating transparency, which is what you're talking about, as far as quarterback play is concerned, Alabama did it last year, right? Where they benched coming out of that Texas game, week 2, benched their starter, played their backup. It was the most horrendous quarterback game I have ever seen. It was awful, man. I mean, but that's what we saw yesterday. But, it was terrible, dude. And they ended up going back to Milroe the next week. And it created transparency within the fan base of realizing that Milroe was their best opportunity to win. And they put a game plan around him moving forward that made sense. So those are 2 examples of people making decisions after week 2 of, hey, this works for us, this doesn't work for us, and figuring out what the strength of their team was going to be. So you're going to have to make the hard decision, either make the change or don't make the change, and then sell out to whatever you're going to do.
I love that coaching call that was made too. I mean, I really do. It was smart to get, let Milroe sit out and then see what the other guy does. And it's kind of like the longest yard, right? The other guy thinks he can do it. Put him in there. Hey, coach, I can. Why don't you let me be quarterback? And then he tries it and he's terrible. He's like, that's why.
Yeah, Bruce, you shouldn't have had that popcorn, huh?
yeah. Now sit down and shut up. No, I mean, really. And then they go back to Milroe, and you're right. The fan base knows at that point, well, that was obviously the best choice, and now we understand that. And the problem is the margin of error is a lot smaller at Auburn right now.
Significantly, right? Nick Saban has far more leash than Hugh Freeze at this tenure. I mean, you're talking about a guy who's won 6 national championships and has stockpiled talent on his team. So if he wants to play with his food a little bit against South Florida, he has the wiggle room to do so. Hugh Freeze goes out there and they don't perform up to expectation against New Mexico. Well, things are a little bit different. The stakes are different, right?
Yeah.
So, and they shouldn't necessarily be like Hugh should have all kinds of freedom in year 2 of a rebuild.
I agree.
But it's just not how it works, right? Especially in today's age of social media where everything is,
microwave
microwave analysis, right? Everybody's got a take, everybody's got an opinion, everything circulates, and so it just creates some drama around a situation. And look, I'm not going to lie and pretend like I liked what I saw last weekend, and I'm not going to like it if you see the same effort against New Mexico. So I understand people complaining. I'm not telling people that they shouldn't have a voice. I'm just saying the process has been sped up to a degree, and Hugh needs to understand that and own it.
Yeah.
Yeah, good luck with that, I think. I haven't seen any indication so far that he wants to own a 4-year rebuild or own the fact that, hey, things need to be quicker. I think if anything, he's tried his best to slow down expectations and to temper expectations and to downplay his roster. And, some of that's fair and some of it maybe is not. And I said before, part of what he's up against is what happened before him. You're up against the apathy that set in at the end of Gus Malzahn, and then the absolute, just dismay of what we watched under Brian Harsin. And so like, you've got a fan base that's just fed up. They're tired of excuses. And so it's just, maybe some of it's not fair, but it is what it is. But the quarterback thing's different. I mean, you made the decision. There were portal options. They were there. We all know they were there. There were guys you went after and didn't get. There's guys you did not go after that you could have gotten that played well on Saturday. Okay.
I saw that Kyle McCord note. I remember you putting that up.
McCord played well. Jordan McLeod played pretty well. Like, there are guys out there that were good players, and you chose to, for whatever reason, to not do it and to stick with what you got. So like, that's one where you can't come back and go, our roster's just not there yet. When it comes, if you start flipping quarterbacks, that's all on you. You had options. You made the choice. Here we are.
That's a good point.
And so, I get maybe some other, you went and got some receivers, whatever, but if like the issues, if Hugh Freeze feels like the issue is quarterback, you had opportunities to go different routes and to change things up, and you didn't. So you got to own that. You don't get to say, give me 4 years when teams are turning programs around in 2 between recruiting class and portal. You can flip your roster twice. I mean, you can freaking flip your roster every, year and a half at this point. So
sure. And
I'm not looking forward to Monday though. I'm not looking forward to, I'm curious what Hugh Freeze is going to say, but I can already picture it in my head. I think it's going to be a lot of I think it's going to be a pretty somber, that was ugly football. And I think he's going to be pretty transparent, but it's not going to be pretty. I think it's
it's going to be tough to watch. It always is after games like this, right? Because you can tell that it weighs on the coaching staff, it weighs on the fan base, it weighs on everybody involved. The players, I'm sure, are going to be feeling this somewhat. You would hope they'll be able to put this behind them. And realistically, this comes at a pretty good time because you do get a team that you have more talent than in New Mexico. So if you are hungover slightly, which could be the case, I would hope it's not, but it could be the case. You're not setting yourself up for necessarily a situation where you're at fear of being upset again. Or you would think that. Now you're going to have to get it out of your system by the time you play Arkansas. Because again, I mean, I watched a team that was motivated, that liked each other. They were playing hard for each other. It was complimentary football. They ran the football down Oklahoma State's throat.
You know what? Now, what year is Sam Pittman in over there?
Year 4 or 5. He was hired in 2020, I think.
A lot of Arkansas fans thought that was too much.
Oh, he's for sure on the hot seat this year. I mean, there's no question.
I mean, margin of error over there is much worse than what it is at Auburn right now. And it was put up or shut up. And so far, that's a good start for them. I'm just saying, sometimes the rebuild takes longer than you want it to. And
for sure.
That goes for Hugh Freeze too. I think Hugh Freeze shares similar frustrations to what the fans share for some things. That's why I think he's maybe pushing to get that passing game going a little faster than they were ready. And he said just what his words reflected, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, look at Missouri and Eli Drinkwitz, right? It was 3 straight years of 6-6, and then they finally had a breakthrough last year.
Yeah.
So, and 4 years used to be, like when Justin first started, 4 years was an acceptable rebuild time, right? Like you had 3 years as a grace period, and then coming into year 4, that's when you kind of started to feel it a little bit.
Right.
That timetable is long gone at this point. Like you're coming out of year 1, you're going into year 2, and you damn sure better be getting better the second year, right?
Well, especially when you're taking money left and right, and you got people involved that are not just that they want, not just that they expect it. Well, that's kind of the thing. Like you're involving a lot of people now, and that's great, that's awesome. But a whole lot more people have invested expectations that you better meet, and that's part of it. It's like if you're starting a business, you can do it on your own, but if you go bring in an investor, you better believe they're going to want a return.
Sure. And
that's going to happen a lot quicker than you want it to happen.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Good point.
Absolutely. It's why private equity and college football make 0 sense. Because all they want to see is a return on investment, dude.
Yeah.
They don't give a damn how he gets to it either. But you're right, Justin. That's why most of these coaches, like people that I talk to, think that, what happened last week with the house case and the potential settlement not being there for rev share, like that was a huge blow to some of these guys who thought, okay, we're going to finally have some stability and ability to generate our own money internally. We're not going to be solely dependent upon booster involvement and fundraising for NIL, because that is the fear, right? The fear is that people are going to get tired of writing checks. And then what are you going to do? Because if you don't have NIL in your pocket at this point, woe be unto you, my man, because it is difficult to recruit when you don't have NIL support. So we'll see what happens on that front. Yeah. Think about how much of a centric theme that is for a lot of recruitments. Now, I'm not saying it's the only selling part. And we talk about this on the recruiting show all the time. There are other facets to recruitments. But NIL and what I'm going to make is a huge piece of any recruitment now.
Yeah.
Period.
How would it not be?
No. It's completely understandable.
Yeah, it is.
Well, I think we've beaten this one to death. Defense is fine. Like secondary got some stuff figured out. That was good to see. But it's just, it's hard to not talk about. The offense, it's just not hard for that to be the primary thing that comes out of that. Defense showed a little life, and we'll see if they can continue to grow. But we'll see some hard decisions, I think, for the staff, for Hugh Freeze, for Kent Austin specifically, on what is the issue and what's the quickest way to fix it. I think that's where we're at. I could see a world where Peyton's your guy if other things change and maybe you tweak something else with the offense. Or I could see a world where you give Hank Brown a shot. But I think y'all made a good point about it depends on what you want the offense to be, and then maybe go from there. That might be a certainly maybe that's the ground of where you start is like, okay. But I think they can throw the ball. We talked about receivers being open. I think stuff's there. I don't know. Maybe it's not a refined machine yet, but I think there's some stuff there. We'll see what they do. It'll be an interesting week. It'll be interesting to hear Hugh Freeze on Monday talk about what he saw on film, and I just feel like it's gonna be a broken record. But we'll be here to cover it. Any parting shots?
Who do you think gets the most hate comments out of the three of us after this?
I think who would hate us?
I think it's gonna be Zach.
I did. Yeah, a guy DM'd me last night during the game. He DM'd me and just dropping F. He's mad. He's dropping F-bombs. I was like,
there was a whole thread on the board. Cole Pinkston, you owe us our money back.
Nice. Are we to that?
Yeah, Florida State style.
Oh
no, I think we've been pretty fair. We're not out here calling for heads, but
no, but you have to be accountable for what the product you put on the field yesterday too. At the end of the day, there needs to be, in my opinion, as far as a parting shot is concerned, if I'm going to hear anything from Hugh Freeze, it's basically stating that what took place was unacceptable. That does not meet our standard. And we're going to continue to work better, continue to coach better, continue to play better, and try to make this as best a product as you possibly can. But you got to accept accountability of the fact that performance did not meet the standard of what you're trying to accomplish as the head football coach at Auburn. And then the second parting shot would be, Justin, you were spot on when you said the anticipatory part of the game of playing quarterback. That and accuracy are the two biggest parts of being an effective quarterback. If Peyton cannot play with better anticipation than he does when he gets rattled, when he's on rhythm, when he's on script, he is an effective quarterback. When he faces some adversity and he gets rattled a little bit, it just, for whatever reason, the anticipation goes out the window and you just don't see it. And that is not a recipe for success moving forward. I don't care who your quarterback is.
For sure. I have nothing to add to that. That's perfect.
That's fair. We'll see how Monday goes. I think my question to Hugh will be, what surprised you about what you saw on Saturday? Like,
that's a great question.
What was like? Was there something that you were like just really shocked by that performance? Year two, it looked like year one. It looked like literally a year ago. What was the most surprising part of the breakdowns? I'd be curious to hear.
Because Philip Montgomery's not here to be, he can't take blame for that, right?
Nope.
And I'm not saying Hugh's saying that. I'm just saying you fired your OC after 1 year.
But I would want to know what surprised you, because that would tell me what his expectations were going in, and it would maybe tell me where he thought a group was, and maybe they're not where I thought they were. And, it would kind of point me towards maybe what he thinks is the biggest issue is like, what were you most surprised about how it broke down? Maybe he says pass pro, maybe he says who knows what. But yeah, I think there's a lot of frustration, and we'll see how they can bounce back. I mean, a lot of young guys, a lot of young players, got to have some good leadership. Peyton's among those.
Yeah. And
so it'll be interesting week of practice. Probably a little hangover next week. Fans will be a little hungover. I mean, I think it'll be a very meh atmosphere probably, but they'll get through it because they're better than New Mexico. And, you got a week or so to get your head right. But that'll be an interesting Monday. All right, everybody, we'll come back later in the week. We'll do the modcast before New Mexico. Plenty of recruiting and football coverage at auburnlive.com, so make sure to join us. A lot of recruiting shows during the week as we await Deuce Knight's decision. I did joke with somebody earlier. I'm like, it's Deuce Knight going, okay, so the two teams I'm thinking about lost to Northern Illinois and Cal today.
Yeah.
Can I just restart this maybe? He's probably more confused than ever. We'll see what happens. All right, guys. Appreciate it. auburnlive.com. Go subscribe if you're not there. We'll talk to you guys next time.